Right. Hello, everyone. Right. My name is Omar Trawale from Leeds Arts University, and I've got Sarah Charles from Arts University Bournemouth. Um, our colleague Shas Bahako from Goldsmiths will hopefully be joining us shortly as well. So we just wanted to give it another minute to just ensure that more people are coming in just now, and hopefully we'll be starting shortly anyway. Right. Uh, Right. Okay. Right. So what we'll do is we'll start we'll kick off with the presentation now, and then at the end of it we will then all have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might want to know. It could be about our individual universities or a general one for the UK as well. Right. Okay. So let me just expand this, and then hopefully. Right. So, like I said, my name is Omar Trawale. I'll be hosting this webinar today about preparing a portfolio. So to kick off, I just wanted to talk to you about what we'll be discussing within this seminar anyway. So what we will be covering. So the first one we'll be covering is portfolio, what it is and what it entails, what to include. We'll also be talking about sketchbooks, what they are. We'll also try and give you some tips for presentation formats that's for your portfolio before you actually do your final presentation to the universities that are respectively there for you to apply for. We'll also try and talk about common mistakes as well. These are the vital mistakes that people tend to do, applicants tend to do when they're applying. So we will talk you through them as well. We'll also give you top tips about, things that you can look out for, things that you can add to actually enhance your portfolio to make it a lot better. Auditions as well. This is mainly for our music students that want to apply for music through the creative universities, and also interviews as well, what we'll be looking out for as well. We'll also have an introduction to our various universities that are present today. For example, like mine, Leeds Arts, and we've also got Arts University of Bournemouth, and we've also got Goldsmiths, which is university in London as well. And then you've got the opportunity for any questions and answers, and more information will follow. Right, so I will kickstart and then I will pass it to my colleague as well. So just to mention, one of our colleagues have just literally just joined us as well. So he'll be part of the presentation as well. So any questions about Goldsmiths can follow at the end. Right, so what is a portfolio? So this is what I'm starting with. So, but before I talk about what a portfolio is, I just wanted to tell you a bit more about creative arts and design. So creative arts and design has been associated with a lot of things really, including graphic design, painting, theater, fashion design, etc. As well as UI and UX designing. Animation is part of it. Magazines, brochures, and a whole lot more. So the umbrella of creative arts and designs, covers several courses, including photograph, performing arts, film, visual arts, fashion design, interior design, multimedia design, etc. So pursuing subjects in the arts allows students to hone their creative skills. So what is a portfolio? So there's different definitions of what a portfolio is. I mean, my colleagues with me today will actually evidence this. Every institution might have a different definition in their website of what they think a portfolio is. So what I did is I tried to come up with just several generic definitions that you can actually choose as what a portfolio is. So a portfolio is an edited collection of an artist's best artwork intending to showcase their style or method of work, so which helps institutions or employers to evaluate their potentials. Or some people might say a portfolio is used by an artist to show employers or institutions their adaptability by showing different samples of current work. In my own institution, we normally advise students that a portfolio is a carefully curated collection of their work. So which means that institutions just don't want the work that you actually produce, but to also express, why you are suited for the course. We want you to tailor your portfolio to the course that you're actually applying for. We want you to express yourself. So well-selected images and personal statements normally says a lot about an artist and their work. So in a student's portfolio and personal statements, so most institutions would expect students to show or express their enthusiasm and engagement in the subject area. So this could be, what you've been watching, that actually enhance your sort of interest in the area, or what you've been making on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, or events that you've even have attended. For example, music festivals. It could be going to the cinema. It could be anything that actually enhance your ability to choose an idea to make it as an image. So moving on to that, so idea development. So what is your creative journey? So an idea development, you must have a creative journey for that to happen. So for some, that might not, you might not know what an artistic journey is, and most people don't if they're starting their creative career. So we would say a personal artistic journey is how artists explore and sort of transform their ideas, the evaluation of their practice over time. So the other thing that I might want to express to you is, how do you start a creative journey? So I've put together some tips to just try and go through with you. I mean, it doesn't mean that these are the only tips to actually start your creative journey, but these will certainly help. So first of all, explore different avenues. So often people do limit themselves because they've, never done something differently. You always stick into the norm. I myself is a perfect example. Sometimes you just stick to the same routine, thinking, oh, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But as a creative person, you have to experiment. You have to take risks. So you have to get yourself out of that comfort zone and make sure you experiment a lot on your creative journey. If you make mistakes along the way, that's absolutely fine, because the biggest advice that people normally give, like course leaders or tutors will give you, would be to fail on something so that you can find out what the failures was, to put it back in a different way, to be your own critic. So step out of your comfort zone and explore new ideas. So always try and explore. You have to get out there and explore, not just by yourself, but also with your peers, materials that you could experiment on to use, test the shots, things like that. So ensure you get all your ideas on paper. So we normally advise all creative students to actually make sure that any idea that pops up in their head, they should have a journal, write it down. You could be walking down the street, seeing particular images that you might like, take a picture of it, write it down, because you never know when those ideas might be needed in your future projects. You never, ever, ever know, because a professional artist is a professional artist 7 days a week, not a 9 to 5 job. So things that you might be seeing on the street, things that you might be watching, things that you might even be reading, ideas could float up in your head. Just write it down. Um, Take it step by step with your ideas and don't rush through your work. So that means that make sure that everything that you do is simple. Do not rush any work that you're doing, any portfolios that you're doing. There is not a polished artist out there, even the ones that are world famous, that are producing fantastic pieces of work for the world to see. Their works are not polished, because they might do a fantastic piece. A non-artistic eye might see it, think, oh, this is fantastic, but to them there's some critics into it. They might think, look at it and think, I could have done this differently. So always be your own critic and don't rush through your work. So stay open to new inspirations. So make sure you get inspirations to anything. It could be anything. It could be your friends, it could be people that you work with, it could be your tutor, it could be even be the alumni from the various institutions that you are about to apply to. So be inspired by anything that you see that could be used as a potential piece of work. And always remember, there's no right path, because every practicing artist is different. So every artist that you see is different. So even if you're working together as a project, it doesn't necessarily mean that your ideas won't be used. It means that somebody else's idea has been used because it's easier for everyone else to relate to. But in the future, all the ideas will be used. So, everyone else is different as an artist. There is no particular institution in the UK in which you will have the same artistic talents in the same class that have the same ideas. It will be impossible. So moving on to technical abilities as well. So, how do you create technical abilities? So a technical portfolio is a key element of your work, which is vital to every institution in the UK. So it is an opportunity to showcase your skills through the projects that you have worked on, and show prospective institutions just what you are capable of. So there are several portfolio templates students can also choose from online, but I would always advise you to try and build one for yourself from scratch. It's just to show your technical ability and technical skills to your institution, because they want you to express yourself. Every institution, um, for example, Leeds Art University, Goldsmiths, Art University, Bournemouth, it will be on our website to actually inform students, express themselves. You can use various templates, but we just want to see your capabilities, so you don't have to worry about sending a very, very polished portfolio. So how to create these? So first of all, you have to understand your audience. So for example, if you applying for animation, make sure that all the portfolio that you're presenting relates to animated figures, animation. You can add a little bit of mixed media, photographs, a bit of graphic design, illustration if you wish to, but focus on the main point, which is the subject area. So the audience are the course leaders or the tutors that will be reviewing your portfolios. These are your audience. So make sure that you understand them, because they are from those schools that you're actually applying from. So they want to understand that you are enthusiastic about that, about the subject area. Tell a story. So make sure that there's a pattern to your portfolio for the story to be consistent. So every draft, every sketch, every drawing that you do, try and put a little summary about it to explain what the story is. I've come across various portfolios in which you look at the structure of the drawing, the sketch is magnificent, but the applicant haven't put any information at all. So I can't actually tell what the story is. So by doing that, if I can't tell, then a more professional course, school course leader reviewing your portfolio will not be confused, but they will be wondering if this is an area that you want to get into, because you're not elaborating a lot more about the story. Simplify the experience as well. The best portfolios that I've ever seen, or the best piece of work that I've seen with professionals produce, are the simplest artworks possible. Do not overcomplicate your work. Just make sure that it's as simple as possible. Um, with that simplicity of your work as well, it becomes an experience, so that when you're doing future projects, future work, you've got the experience already in how to simplify your work. Use categories. I've come across some fantastic portfolios from applicants from various parts of the world, in which they've sent it on a particular platform, and then within that platform, they put their portfolios into segregated categories, and then you can view the stories consistently. Fantastic. So it's entirely up to you, but the more you put them in categories, the easier it is for your audience to actually read and get into your program as well. Highlight your best work. So within these categories as well, make sure when you put it, you don't actually have to put it on a platform, for example, like Instagram or YouTube. It could even be as simple as a PDF, but make sure that your best work is absolutely among the top pages first, because always start on a high to make sure that it captivates your audience. The moment they open your portfolio, there's a wow to say, wow, this looks interesting. I want to read more. And then always finish on a high as well, so that by the time they finish going through your portfolio, it's memorable for them as well. So influences as well. So this is all part of how to start your portfolio and how to build it. Make sure you start with influences. So who inspires you to actually do that piece of work on your portfolio? So artists are inspired by many things. So which means you may be inspired by nature. It could be things that you've seen on TV, or you actually witness yourself, your surroundings, where you live, your neighborhood, books you've actually read. It could be current books, past books, it could be anything. Magazines that you've read, movies that you've watched, television shows that you've actually watched, music that you listen to, what sort of music you're into. It could be anything, pop, hip hop, whatever it is. It could be anything that you want to do a piece on. Travel, emotions, memories, It could be memories of your childhood, memories of your parents, your friends, your school memories, college memories, anything. Your sketchbooks. So your sketchbooks as well. This is quite important. It doesn't necessarily mean the sketchbooks that you've recently done or things that you've recently done at school. It could be sketches that you've done on your personal leisure time at home a few years ago when you were a lot younger. These could all be vital as drafts from where you started. Other artists and their artworks as well. So this could be famous artists that you've actually are inspired by yourself. So, it could be anything. It could be their piece of work that you're really into. You're inspired by those sort of work, and then you can emulate those sort of work and create your portfolio from that. It could be alumni from your chosen university. So the list is absolutely endless of what you could actually do in terms of that. So moving on. So different portfolios in different places. So in the UK universities will often ask for process work in addition to final perfected pieces. So this simply means that sometimes universities will ask you, I'll take my university, for example, will ask you for a draft piece of work so that it could be looked at by the international team, for example, and then help you further before submitting your final version. Or if a portfolio has been submitted and then we realize that it's drifting away from your actual perfected subject area that you wish to apply for, and we can then go back and advise you on what you need to improve on so that you can, I'm not saying make it perfect, but make it usable for the course leader to review and understand a lot more. So may also ask you, well, the university may also ask you for work from different mediums or disciplines. So this could be private works that you've done. This could be projects that you've done on your own personal time as well. So all these could be, could be produced as a portfolio if you want to add it onto your application. Consider having a large portfolio document, that you can draw from to create a portfolio that meets the request of the university. Most universities will have a platform in which you can upload your portfolios anyway. So every university differs from how they ask for these. For us, obviously, you've got your own platform, which we call Applicant Portal, that you can use. I'm sure Goldsmith will have one as well as our University of Bournemouth. So I would advise you to actually contact these specific universities, email the admissions team or the international officers, and they will advise you a lot more on what sort of, what sort of platforms you could use. Normally, there's no restrictions on platforms. There's no restrictions on megabytes that you could send. It's entirely up to you. Always check with your university or institution about what they want to see. So most universities as well, within their websites, will actually have individual subject area requirements for that portfolio. There'll be general requirements. For example, in our university, on our website, we've got general requirements of what we ask for, the sort of pieces, for example, 6 to 12 pieces that you can provide, the platforms that you can provide it on. But the individual subject areas, we've got specific tips of what you can do to make your portfolio look a lot better and then relates to that specific area as well. So I would advise you to have a look at all our websites of the various universities that are here today and see the requirements. You will find that most of them are quite similar. So moving on to what to include. Right, so what to include. So most universities will generally ask for between 10 to 20 pieces anyway. So on average, 15, 20 pieces of work that you will be asked to produce. Due to the COVID effect, I can only talk about my university at the moment in terms of this because we actually reduced the amount of pieces that students could actually produce because we found out that most of them were actually impacted on getting their materials through their various lockdowns in their various countries. So it was actually brought down to 6 pieces, but applicants were not penalized if they decide to produce more. So it's entirely up to you, but the support is there. So all I advise you to do is email the admissions officers within these various universities that you wish to apply to, and they will advise you on what you can produce. You will never be penalized, even if you actually produce a a short version pieces of what's asked. But if you can justify yourself of why you are actually providing those pieces, I'm sure the universities could accommodate. But I will advise you to get that advice from the officers. 2D work as well, which includes drawings, sketches, collages. So these can actually be added to your work in terms of, you know, producing your portfolio. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can do all of them. If you can do all of them, fantastic. But at least two, you know, some drawings, sketches, or collages. 3D work, so the models, the sculptures, garments, you know, these are all samples that you could actually use as part of your portfolio. Photograph, so objects that inspire, you know, like materials and patterns, textures and the environment, you know, the landscapes and figures as well, buildings, portraits. These are all interesting facts that you can actually research on and actually add on your portfolio. Digital, it could be graphic, well, digital could be anything really, digital fashion or, animation. So graphics, images, drawings, animation, these are all part of the digital aspects of what you can actually add on your portfolio as well. You don't necessarily have to add all of them into it, but at least the majority of 2 or 3. Film as well. So if you're applying for something like film, make sure you add a short film on your portfolio to actually demonstrate your skill set. Most students that I normally see applying for film will add a little short video as well as an unrelated script as well, just to show that you've got multimedia skill set within that scope. Photographs absolutely always helps in film portfolios. So I would advise to actually have a look at that and see if you can add some more of those into it. Right, so I've mentioned idea development previously. It actually relates to what I've mentioned before in terms of your creative journey. So the sketchbooks are absolutely vital in terms of doing your drafts, searching for answers in terms of the summary of your stories, mood boards as well. Experimentation, I've mentioned. You have to experiment as a student, as an applicant, to actually make sure that the mistakes that you're doing, which is part of the risk taking, is actually influential, because you can then utilize that to actually create more talent, and the mistakes will help you avoid them in the future. So idea development is it's a fantastic area to look into. And just to show you, my last slide, just a brief sample of some of the sketches that we might get with a student's portfolio. For example, a concept sketch, which you could see on my left hand side. So these are some of the digital sketches that students might do. So it's not perfect, but I can tell the story from the sketch anyway. So thank you very much for listening today. So what I'll do is I will now pass on the bat to my colleague Sarah Charles from Arts University Bournemouth, and she will continue with the presentation. I will later come back, and then we will go through the university summaries as well. Sarah?
Thanks, Omar. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session all about folios and sketchbooks. Fantastic information from Omar about the kinds of things that you should put in your portfolios. Really, if there's only one thing you go away with from this presentation, make sure it's the importance of ideas, because that is where we see how you see the world, and that's what we want to know about. It also shows us that you are able to really enjoy your time at university, but also to deal with it by working through those ideas and showing us what you can do. And a brilliant place to put those ideas, of course, and many of you will be working into your sketchbooks. So this is where you can problem solve, you can note down those things that you see, as Omar said, on a day-to-day basis. Maybe you carry a little one around with you and sketch down things as you see them. Maybe you write into it. Maybe you do little bits of poetry or written word. a sketchbook is a place where you can do pretty much anything. It is your personal place where you can put your ideas and the way you see things. It's also a great place to test ideas and explore and all that experimenting that you can do, because nobody has to see it. But it's also really helpful when you come to put your portfolio together, because as you can see here, you can scan pages and you can put those pages in your portfolio to show where your ideas have come from. So if you've already got all this going on in your sketchbook and you've got these exciting pages, you can see one here, a student perhaps for animation, who has developed these lovely character expressions and faces, and put these into the portfolio to show how this has been developed. So what the sketchbook book page, oh, I can't speak, can do is demonstrate that journey, again, that Omar's been talking about. You can show that throughout your portfolio, but also within each project. How you went through that raw creative process, because creativity is messy. It's not always a tidy thing. And we like to see some of the mess because it supports the finished pieces. And sometimes things don't work out. And Omar again mentioned that mistake idea. We'd like to see some of those mistakes, because what that means is that you've been problem solving. You've been working out where things go wrong and then doing them in a different way, approaching them in a different way. So that's what we love to see. So put some of that in your portfolio so we get to know who you are and how you think. Now, of course, not everyone works on paper. Maybe you're working into a blog or an online kind of, sketchbook, and that's absolutely fine as well, as long as all that lovely, rich information about how you think is included. Next slide, thanks, Omar. Most creative courses, not all, and again, do check the requirements of each course portfolio, but a lot of creative courses will ask to see some life drawing. Now, the reason for this is because it forms the basis of all art, really. It's how you observe the world. It's always best to do things direct from observation, because if you copy something, it means somebody has already done that. They've already looked at something and done it their way. And then if you copy it, you're kind of doing it the way they've already done it. So best to do things from the original source. And if you can use different kinds of media, you can see here, somebody stitched that life drawing piece, or the black and white one is actually done with wire. So you don't have to use traditional pencil, charcoal, paint. You can use other ways of doing things. Make sure in your portfolio you have a really strong start, and if you are thinking of illustration or animation, that may well be life drawing. So put that right at the start to show how much you love to draw, and then a strong finish. Next slide, thanks, Omar. You may be thinking about applying for photography or visual communication or graphics or illustration. And what you can do here is be a bit creative in your portfolio. You can present your ideas as little snapshots. You can see this photography piece here has taken little sections and created this lovely grid of different parts of the image. And it just adds an interest to that particular page. And on the left there, you can see this student has made this fantastic little pop-up zine, this little magazine, and presented that in a really interesting way so that we can see how that might work. So don't always think of things as flat. Maybe think of things in a more three-dimensional way. Be a bit creative with the way you present your portfolio pieces. Thanks, Omar. Speaking of presentation, we've already mentioned photographs, Make sure when you take photographs, if they are 3D pieces, you use really good quality images. You know, if they're pixelated or a bit blurry, it does spoil the impact of them. Don't feel like you always have to take the entire thing. You can see here this image has been cropped. If there's a particular detail you want to highlight or show, zoom in on that one, show us that piece, but keep it in its context if you can. Use subtle labeling, so make sure we don't want to see an essay of writing alongside each piece, but often those captions, those words can help us to understand what this piece is about. And that goes back to that idea of telling the story about the ideas, about the piece, where it came from. And curating your portfolio, really important. We want to see that you mean what you say, that you mean what you show in your portfolio. So be very deliberate and picky, choosy about what you put into that portfolio. We usually say, if in doubt, leave it out. So only choose the pieces that you're really proud of, that you can really maybe talk about. Thanks, Omar. Is it over to Sash?
Yeah, sorry. Do you want to just go back a slide, Omar, for a second? Sorry, I was gonna just just thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Omar, for those really insightful comments and advice for the students on the call today. Just to echo some of the fantastic advice that both Sarah and Omar have given. Just just circling back a little bit, so on the, just to kind of to piggyback on what Sarah's mentioned there in terms of diverse photographs, like Sarah mentioned, it's really good if you can try and show a range of different media, materials, and also different perspectives, and think about different techniques and types of photography, for example. I think some people may just kind of be used to using digital photography, perhaps have a think about how you might explore analog photography, for example, and try and bring in different techniques through your presentation. In terms of quality images, as Sarah mentioned, this is just, try and show that this is kind of, they're digestible. It's important to note that not all of your work, as my colleagues have mentioned, needs to be polished works of art. Remember, perfecting your work is not the be all and end all of portfolio. Don't be afraid, as my colleagues have mentioned, to try and show some unfinished pieces of work, and how you research and develop some of your ideas and show these through images. But the key thing is, remember, everything that you show us needs to be clear. So that means quality images. In terms of labeling, as Sarah also mentioned, things to think about when it comes to labeling would be, think about the size, think about documenting the media, and thinking about short and snappy summaries. As Sarah mentioned, we don't want reams and lines of text. If your pieces need a lot of text to explain your work, have a think about what you're submitting and how you might rework that and resubmit that in a way that doesn't require you to kind of write lines and lines of text about what it is you're presenting. But in the same breath, it's really important to try and explain and signpost your vision. And that's the kind of the key phrase, is signposting. It's just a bit of a subtext around your piece of work. Yeah, so context is always really important when labeling. Storytelling, really important to create a strong narrative. Building a story with an impactful beginning and end can always leave a lasting impression on admissions tutors. If you can't explain a particular piece of work, perhaps think about not including it. Also, how you edit your work shows us your ability to work to a project brief, which obviously you would do when working at a bachelor's level program. And it's also a really key skill for a range of different creative programs, because it shows us that you possess the skills needed to cope with the demands of our programs. When it comes to storytelling, how you tell that story is different depending on what creative course you've applied for. But think of it as an extension of your personal statement. So your work should tell us more about you, your ideas, your perceptions, your wants, your wishes, perhaps things that you might want to explore on the course. Yeah, it should be an extension of your personal statement, just telling us a bit more about you, but a visual representation of that. Next slide, please, Omar. Yeah, so when photographing your work, obviously take care of the pictures that you're taking. So think about lighting, layout, and background. We want to see really clear images, but we often want to see images in its context. So what that means is that it's okay, for example, to have the edge of a door frame or the floor in your image, because it gives us a sense of scale and we can actually see what the work is made of. Try to avoid cropping everything to the edge of the piece of work, because a lot of the time it makes it very difficult for admissions tutors to see what they're looking at. So do always think about scale and perspective when you're photographing your work. And of course, for some parts of the portfolio, it's really important to try and use finished pieces alongside development work to give context. As my colleagues have mentioned, it's also about kind of showing us that story, showing us kind of what went wrong along the stages, capturing that, and then showcasing kind of different ways that you worked around that. And again, capturing that. Sometimes students will skip that step. They'll go from A to C and they won't explain kind of what happened in B. How did you get there? What was your process? So do try and capture developmental work and photograph that throughout your kind of creative journey or your process of a piece. It's really kind of important to capture all stages. There's a real common misconception that a portfolio should be a seamless, pardon the pun, but work of art. It's about kind of showing us how did this person tackle this kind of roadblock that they experienced, or so they used this material but it didn't work out. What did they learn from that? How did they use that? So it's about kind of capturing all those bits in between stages of your work, and then presenting that through photography. Next slide, please, Emma. Thank you. So just some key takeaways in terms of submitting a digital portfolio. It's really important to use an accessible platform. One thing that you may want to think about is, depending on where you're submitting your portfolio in the world, there will be some platforms that are not accessible in the UK that might be accessible in your home country. So before you start working and building a platform for submitting your portfolio, just make sure and have a research that it is accessible in the UK. In terms of file sharing, great applications to consider that we widely receive applications through are Google Drive, Flickr, Dropbox. For moving images, you want to maybe consider YouTube or Vimeo. For a portfolio website, and for certain programs that you're applying to, for example, filmmaking, this can work really, really well. It depends on the university, but at Goldsmiths and every university kind of will have a different take on this. But we at Goldsmiths are very pro sort of portfolio websites, because what that allows you to do is it really allows you to showcase some of your work in a very authentic way. It allows you to map out and it allows you to organize your creative pieces and label it in a way that is personal to you, rather than kind of using a pre-structured area. And it makes it very accessible through a website. And there's some lists. There's a list here of ones that you may want to consider. It's also as well okay to share your personal social media accounts in terms of artistic social media accounts. If there's platforms where you've showcased or exhibited pieces of work that you're particularly proud of, that's also okay to share that. I'll link that in your application, because again, it gives us a sense of, you know, who you are, what you're about in terms of your art. In terms of ensuring no passwords or login are required, I think that's a given. What you want to make sure is you just want to make sure that it's as user-friendly as possible. We in the UK, for a lot of our creative courses, receive hundreds of applications, and it can be very troublesome when applicants are submitting portfolios that we have to navigate. It takes a while for us to navigate around and try and access. So before you submit it, a top tip could be maybe share it with a friend or a family member and send it to their email, or send them a link of what you're submitting, and just see how they get on accessing that. Yeah, so just do a few sort of test runs to see if they have it, can access it very easily. Our next slide, please, Omar. I think this one is me as well, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just to go through some common mistakes that applicants have made in the past when submitting applications to creative programs in the UK. Sometimes applications can show a lack of academic rigor. So this is demonstrating a lack of demonstrating methodology, research planning, and idea generation. And this kind of circles back to the point that both Sarah and Omar made at the beginning of the presentation. It's why this is particularly important is because it shows us your approach to your work. And approach work is really, really important because it shows us how you set out, how you map a project, and then how you work to certain points of that project. Because it's not just, you know, you can't magically develop a piece of work. There has to be a well thought out approach to that, but then also to take into kind of consideration of, you know, what, you know, how do we explore something if it doesn't quite work out in the way that we planned. But initially, in that very sort of first step, we want to see how applicants have kind of taken an idea and how they run with it, how they kind of map out their process. So that's really important to try and show that through your works. Again, as colleagues have mentioned, it's not just about finished pieces of work. Concepts and ideas are really, really important. You know, and that sometimes is what some of the best portfolios are actually structured around. People take a concept and idea and use that as part of their portfolio, and then they'll move on to another sort of sub-related context and idea. Sometimes where we see really kind of great technical ability through a portfolio, but there's no story. It doesn't tell us anything about them. They may be an incredibly gifted technical artist or a technical designer, but there is no, their portfolio isn't joined up by ideas, by concepts, by kind of linking different things together and being able to explain them. Because, you know, when you're invited to, if you are invited to an interview, when you talk to the admissions tutor, the expectation is, yes, we will examine some of your sort of technical ability, but we'll be able to see that through the portfolio anyway. When you talk with the academic or the admissions tutor, it's about what this piece represents to you. You know, how have you come up with this idea and why have you put it in there? So you have to think about, you know, what it means to you, your portfolio. It's great if you can show us your technical ability. And again, that's not the be all and end all of the portfolio. It's all about ideas and concepts and what it is that your portfolio means to you. Why are you presenting this to us? Again, as I mentioned, presentation and communication, really, really key. They are the vessels of kind of showcasing your work. And remember, you know, your ideas and your concepts, they're just ideas and concepts. It's how you present and communicate them to us that is really kind of the crux of it. So the concepts and ideas are only one part. Think of it as a journey. You know, the next part is then how do I showcase this? How do I communicate this? And it's not just about getting that idea across, it's about showcasing, you know, technical ability as well. And like I said, the journey at the beginning, the academic rigor, setting out your kind of your stall before you begin, and not going from A to Z, showing us how you got there as well. Making up the numbers, so including work that you're proud of, that you're not proud of, and to build up the number of pieces. Don't think that you can just throw in something because, you know, you feel like I've only got maybe 9 or 10 slides and I feel like I should have 15, so I'll just throw in a couple more because just to kind of like prop it up. Your portfolio, like I said, every piece of work that you have something to say about, that means something to you, that you're passionate about, that's what you should be including in your portfolio. You shouldn't be putting in pieces of work to make up the numbers, or because you feel like it's so. Sometimes as well, one thing that we've noticed is that over the years is that students can sometimes really have an incredible portfolio that's really joined up with concepts and ideas and touching on specific genres or kind of central core themes that are really important for them that they want to explore in a UK art degree. But then they can suddenly just throw in something that's very random that bears no kind of correlation to what the rest of the portfolio is saying and what it's speaking to. And a lot of the time they've kind of, academics or the admissions tutor have quizzed them as to why they put that in there. And they said, well, I just thought, you know, I only had these pieces and I just wanted to kind of make sure that it was at a relatively good size in terms of number of pieces. Make sure you don't do that. It's all about kind of showcasing what's important to you. And every piece that you put in there, you should be able to talk over it. Next slide, please, Omar. Is that me or is that someone else?
I can do this one if you want, and then just give a quick tips. And but this is the last slide, and then we will get into the normal institutions anyway. But I can take it over. Yeah, that's fine. Right, thank you very much, Ash. Those were fantastic advice that you've given the students there. Fantastic, really, really well done. Right, so some of the top tips that I've actually mentioned previously to actually give out to participants in terms of preparing for your portfolio. So number one is check the website for guidance. So every institution, from Leeds Arts University to Arts University Bournemouth to Goldsmiths, we've all got top tips in terms of what to do, you know, the tips of what information to add onto your portfolio. We've got specific guides on the subject areas that you wish to apply for as well. So not just a generic guide, but if you click on any of the courses that you're interested in, there will be specific guides on what is required. So you don't need to panic to think that you might struggle. And then even with those guides, if it doesn't make sense to you, I would advise to actually get in touch with the admissions officers or the international officers to actually support you throughout your drafting of your portfolio. So these guides are there to help you utilize your potentials. But like I said, always ask for help if you think you do not understand any of it. Individual personal statements. So like we mentioned, my colleagues mentioned this as well on the previous slides. Make sure that every piece that you're actually putting in have a little bit of a story into them. Your personal statement, which is the one that you're actually using for applying to the course, make sure you're enthusiastic about the course. Explain why you want to apply for the course. What inspired you to apply, for example, for graphic design or for fashion design? What inspired you? What makes you think that this is your career in the future? What makes you think that this will make you happy in terms of studying it for 3 years? Because it has to be something that's worthwhile and it's something that you actually look at as a potential career to spend 3 years of your life dedicated to studying that specific course. So a variety of your work and raw creative process. So as my colleague Sarah mentioned previously, sketchbooks or auditions as well. So these sketchbooks are important. They are vital to your portfolios, you know, showing the piece of work that you're doing, your skill set. It just shows your emotions as well, the stories that you're telling. So have a variety of mixtures of ideas within it. Show that you've got a multimedia skill set to just show the course leaders that you are ready for this, basically. For the auditions as well, these are mainly for the music performance students that are applying to be either vocalists or guitarists or bass players. Um, so you have to submit an audition of a video of you performing the relevant area that you want to specialize in music. So all these could be found on our various websites if music courses are part of our curriculum. Quality and not quantity. Sas just mentioned that in his last common mistakes that he just talked about. Don't feel that you have to pile all sorts of information on your portfolio, things that are not necessary for your portfolio. If you're applying for a specific subject area, stick to that point. Don't start adding all filler contents on it. Filler contents are something that every university, every institution in the UK is frowned upon, because all it does is add information that's not necessary. You copy and pasting from the internet, adding it up. I mean, you are dealing with professionals. I mean, the tutors that will be teaching you these specific courses, they are absolute professionals. The moment they see a filler content, they will know exactly where you found those sort of information. So we will advise you to stay away from those. Photograph large pieces. So like Sas mentioned previously, make sure that these are clear, make sure that the images are big enough for the reviewers, for your audience to see the point of it, to see the relevant pieces, the story behind it as well. So caption work with a short statement, one line, explain what the project is about. I think we've mentioned this various times. So this shows you how important giving us a bit of narrative about the piece is important. Because if you go to a cinema to watch a movie, you want to know the story by the end of it. So it's the same sequence. You just want to know the story of every piece so that it's easier for your reviewer to appreciate your work. Create accessible platforms, link for digital submissions. So you can, there is no right or wrong out there with the platforms that you can use. But like Sas mentioned previously as well, make sure that these are applicable for us to use within the UK. I mean, most of the time you'll find that we can access any platform, but just to make sure, send it to a relative, send it to a friend, your family members, try and see how they can open the files easily. And once it's done easily with them, that makes sure that it will be absolutely fantastic for us to just look it up as well. So making sure that even if you're using these platforms, make sure that it's on a public domain as well, because most of the time, in my experience, students are sending these portfolios with different platforms, and then it comes, we will then need access, having to go back to the student to get the access because it's on a private domain. So make sure it's on a public domain. Right. Stand out. We've actually mentioned this. Make sure your portfolio stands out fantastically. Unique experiences that you've done. It doesn't matter. Even if it's embarrassing, it might be embarrassing to you, but it could be a fantastic piece for your audience. So make sure that something stands out so that anyone that's reviewing it will always think about that piece that they've looked at. Personal projects. So don't be scared about putting personal projects. So don't just include your work projects. It could be something that you've been doing in your own private time. So these could be even better than your school project. So just pick any best work that you've done previously and put it together as a portfolio. Collaborative work. It doesn't necessarily mean that it just has to be a project that you personally just did. No, some fantastic portfolios that we've received individually would have been portfolios that have been done as a school project or college project, or even personal work project that you wanted to do with a friend or colleague or family member. It could be anything. So don't be scared about just pushing the boundaries. Show us your character. That's all that we want from all the creative arts institutions in the UK. We've all got one thing in common, which is to see the students express themselves. Show us your characters. That's what we want to see. We don't want you to shy away from it at all. So digital auditions. So these are mainly for music students, like we mentioned previously. Students that are actually applying to study either to be the vocalist or drummer or guitarist. So for performing arts courses such as music or acting, you might be asked to submit a digital audition. So this could be a pre-recorded videos of you performing. What we ask for differs by course and instrument. So please check various websites to see. For example, with Leeds Arts, there's every year, the course leader, the School of Music, will actually pick 3 big artists, around the globe, and then pick various music from them, and then let students that are applying use those as part of their audition to actually pre-record one of their tunes. So that's one of them. And then you have to do an original piece from yourself as well. So check to see if there are set requirements, for example, set pieces or an original piece. Detailed advice can be found on our website. So like I said before, just please look at our websites, because every institution might ask for a different requirement in terms of music. But mainly the general factor is a pre-recorded video is normally part of it as well. So interviews as well, so try to be yourself. So most institutions will advise applicants to come over for an interview when the audition, when the portfolio process of now closed down. So it means that you have to come for your interview to be assessed, to make sure that obviously this is for you. During the COVID pandemic, obviously interviews were cancelled because obviously no one can travel, and so virtual interviews were being done by most institutions, including myself. So, when you are in that kind of situation, just try to be yourself. We are actually interested in you. We're not interested in anything else. We're not interviewing you for a job or anything else. We just want to make sure that when we're interviewing you, you are showing that enthusiasm about the course that you are applying for. We just want you to tell us why you want to apply for the course. So there's no, people tend to be nervous, but you shouldn't really. So answer the questions. So don't make things up. Just answer it as straightforward as you can. Be honest with your answers, because the reason why is we do not want you to struggle when the course starts, because you'll get people that will say the right things, everything right, because they just want to go into the program. The moment the program starts, they start struggling because everything else was made up. We want you as a creative personnel to be yourself, because at the end of the day, an artist has always have to be themselves to create wonderful pieces. So you cannot make things up. So just be yourself, be able to talk about your work and critic yourself, your work. The biggest critics of an artist is yourself. You do a big piece, you look at it and think, I should have done this better. You do it again. So you are your biggest critic. Everyone else can review your piece and say how wonderful it is, or you could done this, but you are the main machine for it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask as many questions as you want. There's nothing like a daft question or anything like that in terms of a creative personnel. You ask as many questions as possible. Your tutors, the admissions officers, the international officers are all there to support you. Right, so that's the end of the presentations. So what we'll do now is I will pass over to my colleague Sarah, just to make sure that we're not running out of time as well. And then she'll happily go through what they can offer you as an institution. And then next slides would be my other colleague Shas from Goldsmith. And then I'll go on last. And then after that, there'll be time for questions and answers. Sarah.
Thanks, Omar. Hello again, everyone. Yes, we are from different universities, as you know, and I'm representing Arts University Bournemouth down here on the south coast of the UK. We have one campus. There are about 4,000 students, teachers, technical staff, experts in the field of creative art, design, media, and performance. That's all we do. Just a specialist university in the creative arts. We're really good at it. And as you've heard, we like to experiment with ideas. We offer these multiple disciplines, but we like to think that there are unlimited possibilities for your creativity. There's lots of collaboration between courses, so you get the chance to work with like-minded people on a great campus in a lovely part of the UK. Next slide, please, Omar. Over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. I'll just be very quick. So just a very quick whistle-stop tour of Goldsmiths University of London, which is the university that I am representing here today. So we are part of the University of London, which has been around since 1904. Goldsmiths was founded in 1891. And basically what the University of London is a federation of 17 independent states, so ranging from large institutions like King's College London to smaller institutions like the Royal Veterinary College. And some of the benefits of being part of the University of London group is that you also get a Goldsmiths degree, but you also get that University of London recognition, which is relatively well recognized across the world. You also get access to more shared facilities. So as part of the University of London student, you have access to additional libraries across London, which includes the Senate House Library, which is one of the UK's largest academic libraries. We're a single site campus based in the heart of Southeast London. So our location is in a place called New Cross. I won't bore you with all of what London has to offer, obviously capital city of the UK, and has so much vibrancy, culture going on, and opportunity. But we are based in Southeast London in a place called New Cross, which is regularly described by the New York Times as the creative hub of London. So our local area has a really thriving arts and music scene with lots of quirky and unique cafes and coffee shops and quintessential British pubs. But also importantly, because it's in zone 2, not zone 1, where kind of all the major attractions like the Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament are, because it's in zone 2, which takes about 10 minutes to get to London Bridge, it's slightly more affordable. So local businesses will price students in mind. So although it is London, it's slightly more affordable than if you were, for example, studying and living in right bang in the heart of London. At Goldsmiths, I won't bore you with all the rankings, but we're regularly voted as one of the UK's top creative and political universities. We have 20 different academic departments at Goldsmiths, but one of the really key things about Goldsmiths is that we are a very interdisciplinary university. So whilst we do have lots of creative areas, we also have areas outside of the creative arts. So we have areas such as computing, psychology, business, entrepreneurial business. And what we do really uniquely at Goldsmiths is we bring in some of these other disciplines to inform on the way that we teach some of the creative subjects at Goldsmiths. So there's a lot of, we call it interdisciplinary, there's a lot of kind of crossover in terms of subject knowledge and approaches to work. And lastly, we have some really famed alumni, and like all famed alumni, they would have studied at various different institutions. In fact, I think one of our alumni, Damien Hirst, who you may have heard of, also studied at Omar's University, and that segues very nicely onto Omar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shas. Thanks, Sarah, as well. That was nice and quick. So I'll do the same as well. So obviously, Leeds Arts University. So we are the only specialist arts university in the north, not comparing ourselves to the ones in London like Sas's, Goldsmiths, as well as Arts University, Bournemouth. So which means that we only teach the arts, and throughout the years we've developed a vast number of creative professionals, for example, fashion designers, filmmakers, etc. So students will get the opportunity to collaborate across all of our courses in exciting projects to actually enhance their practice and develop their creative connections as well. So we are very small, friendly, supportive. And so that's why we pride ourselves on the support that we actually give out to every single student. So as a student, you will get to know your professors on a personal level. And we've got an open door policy, which means there's help whenever you need it. So we believe this unique approach is why we were ranked #1 for student support in the WASCA Awards in 2020. So which the university is very proud of. So we also received an 87% satisfaction rating in the National Student Survey, which is actually the highest ranking for any specialist arts institution. With regards to our alumni, Sas just mentioned, we've got one in common called Damien Hirst. He's one of the most prominent members of the Young British Artists and one of the highest earning living artists as well. So he did his foundation with us, and obviously the rest is history. Went over to Goldsmith, did his degree, and yeah, he's up there. Barbara Hepworth, he's also an artist and a sculptor, so one of the few female artists of her generation to gain prominence. We've also got Henry Moore, who was born and bred in Yorkshire here. So he's one of the most revered sculptors as well in his time. So he's left his legacy all around the world in the form of his iconic bronze statues. Some are found in the Moors up here in Yorkshire Sculpture Park, as well as in Hong Kong, as well in Central District. So obviously Leeds Arts is based in Leeds, obviously. So Leeds is the is the county, is part of the county of West Yorkshire in England. So we're about 2 hours north of London by train, 2.5 hours from Edinburgh. So we're actually the third largest city in the UK behind London and Manchester. So we've got world-renowned companies, for example, TV stations like ITV, Channel 4, which is some of the main television companies within the UK. So which means opportunities for employment are vast for our students, because we find some of our students are actually doing intensive placements around these areas. So Leeds is the cultural, financial and commercial heart of the West Yorkshire built up area. So we've got a reported population of about 780,000. So there's plenty to see or do, lots of events, festivals to attend. We've got fantastic student nightlife with nightclubs, bars, restaurants, cinemas, etc. So Leeds was actually named the UK's best student city by the Independent because of its friendliness, its diversity and its rapidly growing city. We've got a fantastic thriving art scene as well. We've got 6 major universities in Leeds. So it's a very vibrant city with a young student population. Moving on to our facilities, we've got a fantastic £22 million invested in a huge refurbishment, which was completed in 2019. So which have actually won a What Uni Student Choice Award for Best Facilities 3 times in a row, the last one being in 2020. So as a student, you will have access to our state-of-the-art resources, for example, specialist workshops, computer suites, libraries, print areas, 3D studios, fashion studios, photographic studios, even film studios. We've got a 230-seat music auditorium for our music students as well, which will enable students actually fulfill their dreams. So we have also got a state-of-the-art public exhibition gallery. So this is for the rest of the students, from fine art, graphic design, illustrations, to actually showcase their skills as well for the general public to see. So all these facilities are equipped to industry standard. So you'll be able to produce work that meets or exceeds the demands of modern practice anyway. So yeah, so the last slide would be, we've got 92% of our graduates that are either in work or further studies from us anyway. So that just tells you the story. So that's the end of the presentation. And if you want to see any of our portfolio or entry requirements as well, please have a look at these links from Arts University Bournemouth. So that's their link for the portfolio advice, Goldsmith as well. And you've got Leeds Arts University at the bottom. So most of them, it's quite similar in terms of the portfolio requirements. Entry requirements as well, I would advise actually have a look at that, not just your portfolio, but academic entry requirements as well. And if you need any support, I'm sure within the various websites as well, you can get in contact with the admissions officers to actually give you any further advice that you wish to take. I would also advise all the participants that please note a follow-up message will be sent by the creative session lead straight after this anyway. If you've got any questions at all, now is the time to actually go through it anyway. But I would also advise that there will be further sessions coming up this evening. So I would advise participants to try and log into that this evening because you might be getting some vital information from there. Yeah, I'll invite Sas and Sarah to come back in if they've got anything to add. Any questions at all? I'm trying to look for anything.
I have been answering a couple of questions in the Q&A section.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
So that's, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So if there's no questions at all, then I would say thank you very much for everyone that's participated today, and thanks very much to Sarah, and thanks to Sas as well for your input. I mean, I'm sure the students will take vital information from this today.
Okay, there's one question that's just popped up.
Oh.
I heard the public could visit art schools in June, that they're open with the BFAs on exhibit. Is that true? It varies, Lisa. Some are open. We are open. We are having student visits. I don't know about you, Omar.
Yes, we are open as well. We've started accepting campus stores and things like that. So we're definitely open. We've got areas that if students don't feel comfortable taking a test before any tours, these are all available for you. But yeah, just like you, Sarah, yeah, we are open, but some other universities might not. So something to check.
Yeah, welcome to come and visit.
Yeah.
Just check with the university.
Yes, that's the correct answer. Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure about SAS. Are you open for any visitors?
He's had to go to another
had to go to another
session.
meeting
So
session, yes.
yeah, but honestly, just check with the main, you know, email contact, and they'll soon tell you.
Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Is there any other questions?
Couple more. Are there any other tips for those interested in taking film? Yes, lots of tips. Omar mentioned that all universities are slightly different and all courses will be slightly different. The best thing to do is look on the website, find the courses you're interested in, and look at the kinds of advice they give. We have a recorded video that the course leader has given of the types of things they look for.
Yeah.
So do a little bit of research beforehand, and there's loads of information out there. If you don't find what you're looking for, just ask, just get in touch. And I'm sure Omar's nodding away. He would say the same thing.
Absolutely, Sarah. Yeah, that answers it. Definitely. Got a last one here that says, how big is the chain that you will get in? I'm not sure what the question
Oh, the
is.
chance. I think it's probably the chance.
Oh, probably the chance, yes.
Medalon.
Yes, Medalon, yes. Well, it depends on your enthusiasm and your application, your portfolio, basically. I will just advise you to actually put in an application to the institution that you wish to go to. And then every institution will actually support any students. If there's anything needed, they will not just say, sorry, you are rejected, for example, or can't be accepted. There will be a justification for that. So I will just advise you to actually apply, because there's a big chance, as long as you met the entry requirements. I cannot see any issues at all in terms of fulfilling your higher education potentials. I'm not sure if Sarah wants to add anything there, but yeah.
I would only add, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what the chances are. If you want to do it, you should do it. Go for it.
Definitely.
Don't worry about what the chances are.
Absolutely. 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 Let's have a look. If there's anything. Yeah. Can't see
anything else. I think that's it.
Yeah, that was the last question there. Yeah. I mean, anyone else that wants to add anything before we go? Yeah, if not, then we can say thank you for joining us, and then I would definitely advise to attend the next sessions as well coming up this evening. And we are doing the same session again tomorrow evening at 5. So if there's anything that you've missed, I would advise to actually join again tomorrow evening. That will be me, Sarah, and Sas again, going to the same information to make sure that it's helpful.
Omar, will the attendees receive a recording?
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
yes,
I thought so.
Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So immediately after this, I will be sending the recording to the creative session lead, and then they will be sharing it with every participant, and also uploading it on YouTube as well, anyway, so that you can go back and watch anything that you've missed. But yes, this is recorded, and obviously you will get access to it from here on. Okay. Right. So yeah, but thanks very much, Sarah, and then hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow.
Might be my colleague, but yeah,
yes.
same thing, but
same thing. But yeah. Well, thanks very much anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Em.
Bye.
Bye.